Lucifer against God. In Christian tradition, especially in popular interpretations of the book of Isaiah and the apocryphal books, Lucifer is considered the highest angel who rebelled against God. The name Lucifer comes from Latin meaning light bearer, and is associated with Isaiah 14 verse 12, "How you have fallen from heaven, O morning star, son of the dawn." Although the original context of this verse is a mockery of the king of Babylon, early Christian theologians such as Origen and St. Jerome began to interpret it as a reference to the fall of an angel. Lucifer is believed to have originally been one of the cherubim or seraphim standing very close to God's throne, Ezekiel 28 verse 14. He was described as a perfect creature of God, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. However, pride grew within him. He refused to submit to God's plan, especially the idea that humans, mortal beings, would be created in the image and likeness of God, in Genesis 1 verse 26. Lucifer wanted to place his throne above the stars of God, Isaiah 14 verse 13, a metaphor for wanting to equal or surpass God. According to tradition, Lucifer's rebellion sparked a war in heaven, Revelation 12 verses 7 to 9, in which he and his followers, a third of the angels of heaven, were pitted against Michael and the other angels. Lucifer was defeated and cast down to earth along with the fallen angels who came to be known as demons or devils. This concept is not only theological but also influential in popular culture, poetry, and art, such as in John Milton's Paradise Lost, which popularized Lucifer as a tragic and heroic figure. However, in official theology, Lucifer remains a symbol of pride, rebellion, and the fall from divine grace. The Guardian Angels. The Book of Enoch, a Jewish apocryphal text written around the 3rd century BC, reveals one of the most mysterious stories of angelic rebellion, the fall of the Watchers, guardian angels. According to this book, 200 angels were sent by God to watch over humans from Mount Hermon. They were led by Samyaza, an angelic leader who later led a major violation of divine law. The Watchers fell into temptation when they saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, Enoch 6 verse 1 to 2. They agreed in an oath to marry human women and have children. This agreement became a collective act of rebellion against God's command. The result of this union was the birth of the Nephilim, giant beings said to possess extraordinary strength and become a source of great evil on earth, Enoch 7 verse 2 to 5. However, the sins of the Watchers did not stop there. They also taught humans forbidden knowledge. Azazel, one of the Watchers, introduced the art of weapon-making, cosmetics, and jewelry. Others taught astrology, sorcery, and the use of drugs. Enoch 8, verse 1 to 3. This knowledge, which was originally known only in heaven, became the cause of moral decay and violence on earth. Because of this great transgression, God commanded the angels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel to punish the Watchers. They were bound and cast into the dark abyss, awaiting final judgment. The children of the Nephilim were destroyed in the Great Flood, which was part of the reason why the flood occurred. This story contains a central theme, the violation of the boundary between the divine and the human, as well as the tragic consequences of heaven's intervention in world affairs. The Book of Enoch, although not included in the Hebrew or Christian canon, was highly influential in early Jewish and Christian apocalyptic thought. Azazel's forbidden knowledge. In the Book of Enoch, Azazel is one of the key figures in the rebellion of the Watchers. Unlike other angels, Azazel stands out not only for violating God's law by marrying human women, but also for teaching forbidden knowledge that changed human civilization. His actions were considered so serious that his name was immortalized in the Jewish tradition of atonement, Yom Kippur, where a goat is sent away to Azazel into the wilderness, Leviticus 16 verses 8 to 10. According to the Book of Enoch, Azazel taught humans how to make weapons of war, swords, knives, shields, and armor. With this knowledge, humans began to kill and conquer one another, causing violence to run rampant. Furthermore, Azazel also introduced jewelry, cosmetics, and makeup, which were seen as symbols of moral corruption and worldly pride. This knowledge, although seemingly helpful to humans, was considered misleading because it triggered desires, envy, and violations of sanctity. In addition, Azazel taught the sciences of sorcery, divination, and astrology, opening the door for humans to try to access the secrets of the cosmos and destiny that should only be known to God and heavenly beings. This knowledge marked a violation of the cosmic boundary between heaven and earth. As a result of this grave transgression, the book of Enoch recounts that God commanded Raphael to capture Azazel, bind him, and cast him into the dark abyss in the desert of Dudael, covering him with rough stones until the day of judgment. Enoch 10 verses 4 through 6. This punishment affirms that misused knowledge can bring destruction, and that Azazel became a symbol of rebellion through forbidden knowledge. Samyaza incites the angels. In the book of Enoch, Samyaza is the chief leader of the Watchers and guardian angels who descended to earth. His story centers on a moment of collective seduction, when the angels agreed to commit a sin together, disobeying God's command by taking wives from among humans. This act was not merely an individual transgression, but an organized rebellion against the divine order. Enoch 6 verses 3 to 5 explains that Samyaza feared that if he were the only one to sin, he would bear the entire punishment alone. Therefore, he made a mutual oath with 200 other angels, binding them in a commitment to descend together and marry human women. They made this pact on Mount Hermon, a symbolic location meaning curse or forbidden. Samyaza's actions triggered a chain of disastrous events. From the union of the Watchers and human women, the Nephilim were born, giant half-divine beings who brought violence and evil to the earth. Enoch 7 verses 1 to 5. In addition, the angels also taught various forbidden sciences, accelerating the moral decline of humanity. Interestingly, Samyaza is depicted in some traditions as experiencing an inner conflict. Some texts mention that he eventually regretted his actions. In one version, Samyaza hanged himself in the sky as a form of self-punishment and is now known as a hanging star, possibly associated with a certain constellation, Jewish Midrash. Samyaza's role is unique because he was not merely a sinner, but the instigator of a collective rebellion. He became a symbol of courage against divine authority, as well as the fatal consequence of misguided leadership. His story serves as a warning. The influence of a leader can bring about the downfall not only of himself, but also of all his followers. Angels in Babylon. The story of the Tower of Babel in Genesis 11 is often understood as an act of humans against God, but some Jewish traditions and Midrash add the role of angels involved in the story. In the biblical narrative, humans unite to build a tower whose top reaches the heavens, to rival God or to prevent themselves from being scattered. God then descends to see their project and decides to confuse their language so that they will stop working. However, in Jewish Midrash, there is an additional story that some angels sympathized with humans and tried to help build the tower. These angels, in certain versions, felt pity or were impressed by human ambition. They provided architectural knowledge, techniques, or magic to speed up construction. In this context, the angels' actions are considered disobedience to God, as they aided a project that went against his authority. Some mystical Kabbalah traditions also interpret the construction of the Tower of Babel as not only a physical project, but a symbol of humanity's attempt to access heavenly secrets through technology or occultism. In this version, the angels' assistance becomes even more problematic, as they indirectly give humans a shortcut to divine knowledge, similar to the role of Azazel or the Watchers in the book of Enoch. As a result of this transgression, according to some interpretations, the angels who helped humans were also punished, although the form of punishment is not always explicitly described. There are interpretations that equate them with other fallen angels who violated their duty as guardians of the boundary between the human and divine worlds. Harut and Marut. In Islamic tradition, the story of Harut and Marut is one of the most mysterious tales of angels who fell into sin. Their names appear in Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 102, which mentions two angels in Babylon who taught magic to humans as a test from Allah. Although the Quran only mentions them briefly, various interpretations and additional literature expand on this story. According to the story that developed in classical interpretations and Israeliyat stories, the angels once criticized human sins to Allah. Allah responded by sending Harut and Marut to earth to prove that if they were in the position of humans, they would also be tempted. Harut and Marut descended to Babylon, a city known for its culture of magic and occultism. On earth, they were tested with the temptation of a beautiful woman named Zora, or Venus in some versions. They fell in love with her, and when Zora asked them to worship idols or reveal the secrets of heaven as a condition, they disobeyed Allah's command. In some versions, they killed a witness who knew of their sin. For this transgression, they were punished by Allah. The versions of their punishment vary. Some say they were hanged upside down in a well in Babylon until the day of judgment, while others say they were imprisoned underground. Interestingly, despite their punishment, they remained a source of magical knowledge. Humans learned magic from them, but with a warning: we are only a test, so do not be ungrateful. Outlaw Punisher Angels. In Jewish Midrash tradition and some rabbinic literature, there are unique stories about angels who act beyond God's mandate, and especially angels who carry out punishment without explicit permission. These stories do not appear directly in the Bible, but developed in ancient Jewish interpretations and folklore. One of the most frequently mentioned figures is the Angel of Death, Malach Hamavet. In some stories, the Angel of Death is too zealous in carrying out his duties, killing more people than God commanded, or punishing them in ways more cruel than those commanded. In the Talmud, Barakot 62b, it is told that the Angel of Death has limited freedom, but sometimes touches people who are not on the death list for that day due to technical errors or excessive zeal. Another example is the story of the angel who brought punishment during the plague of King David, 2 Samuel 24, verses 15 to 17. In this text, the angel was sent to bring a plague upon Israel because of David's mistake in counting the people. However, when the angel was about to destroy Jerusalem, God stopped his hand. Midrash tradition interprets that the angel was ready to continue the punishment, but God stopped him to show mercy. In some esoteric interpretations, the angel's actions that exceeded God's mandate are seen as excessive justice without mercy, as if the angel only emphasized legal justice without considering grace. As a result, they themselves had to be reminded by God of his merciful nature. This story shows that even faithful angels can be wrong in executing divine will if they interpret the law rigidly without wisdom. In Jewish theology, this is a lesson that justice must always be balanced with mercy. Abaden and Apolon. Abaden in Hebrew means destruction or place of destruction, and Apolon in Greek means destroyers, are mysterious figures who appear in Revelation 9 verse 11. He is referred to as the king of the bottomless pit, leading an army of destructive locusts that are released during the fifth trumpet in John's vision. Many interpreters consider Abaden, Apolon, to be an angel of destruction, but his status is ambiguous. Is he a servant of God or a rebel? In the context of Revelation, Abaden appears to be carrying out a mission as an instrument of divine judgment, not an enemy of God. However, some early Christian traditions and apocryphal writings interpret him as a fallen angel or an entity given temporary power by God to destroy the evil world. In rabbinic literature, Abaden sometimes refers to a location in the realm of the dead, similar to Sheol or the deepest level of hell. Interestingly, in texts such as 1 Enoch and some apocalyptic interpretations, destructive figures such as Abaden are associated with the role of accusing angels or angels who carry out punishment without mercy. This leads some theologians to see Abaden as a symbol of merciless justice, a manifestation of the aspect of God that enforces retribution. In popular culture, Abaden and Apollyon is often personified as a rebellious angel of destruction, similar to Lucifer or Samael. However, in the Bible itself, there is no explicit statement that he rebelled. Rather, he is depicted as obediently carrying out God's judgment, albeit in a terrifying manner. Fallen heavenly Archons. In the tradition of Gnosticism, there is a unique concept of angels called Archons. Archons are described as heavenly or cosmic beings whose duty is to guard the universe, particularly as guardians between the material world, earth, and the spirit world. They are not angels in the traditional Jewish Christian sense, but rather entities of power that govern the material creation. According to Gnostic texts such as the Apocryphon of John and the Hypostasis of the Archons are actually creations of the Demiurge, a flawed god who is not the true God. The Demiurge is believed to have created the material world by mistake or to have deliberately trapped human souls in physical bodies. The Archons then act as guardians or barriers to prevent humans from attaining true divine knowledge, gnosis, and spiritual freedom. In this narrative, some Archons were originally beings of light, but fell from perfection because they supported the Demiurge. They became fallen angels in the Gnostic cosmic framework. Their role is very different from that of traditional angels. They are not messengers of God, but rather guardians of the system of illusion. In other words, they rebelled against the true God by supporting the false God who rules the material world. Some interpretations equate the Archons with the rulers of the dark world, demons or occult forces that control the social, political, and spiritual structures of the world. In Gnostic teachings, the mission of humanity is to obtain gnosis in order to transcend the control of the Archons and return to the true divine source. Shemazai hanging himself. Shemazai, also known as Samyaza in some traditions, is an important figure in the Book of Enoch and various Jewish apocryphal texts. He is known as the leader of the Watchers, a group of 200 angels who descended to earth and disobeyed God's command by marrying human women, producing the Nephilim, giant beings who brought chaos to the earth, Enoch 6-7. After the fall of the Watchers, Shemazai is described as experiencing deep remorse. Unlike other angels who simply accepted their punishment, Midrash tradition and esoteric literature recount that Shemazai punished himself. In one version, he hung himself in the sky between earth and heaven as a sign of remorse and despair. In the Midrash Abkir text, Shemazai was hung upside down, and according to some interpretations, he became one of the stars visible in the night sky, a symbol of his eternal fall. This act of hanging himself is unique because it reflects a moral awareness of the sin committed. Shemazai realized the impact of the collective transgression he led, especially seeing the destruction wrought by their children, the Nephilim. Unlike Lucifer or Azazel, who are depicted as remaining defiant or passively punished, Shemazai chose redemption through self-suffering. Interestingly, in Kabbalah tradition, Shemazai's position in heaven is seen as a cosmic reminder that even the highest heavenly beings can fall if they cross the boundary between the divine and human worlds. He becomes a symbol of the consequences of spiritual transgression, but also a symbol of eternal regret.